Hi everybody, my name is Jamie Ruthenberg and you are watching the next episode of Jamie's Book in a Bite. So last week we talked about Miles Finds a New Friend. This week we're going to talk about the book Miles and the Sneaky Squirrels. It's the book that started it all. There's 4 books so far in the series and it's the very first one. There will be more books in the series, by the way. But this one is special to me because it really was the birth of the series. It's based on actually something that really happened to me. The 2 squirrels in the story, Charlotte and Chip, are actually 2 squirrels I met years ago in my own strawberry garden. I had a huge strawberry garden. One summer I was going out to pick all the berries, and all these berries had these little bites in them, and they were ruined. I couldn't use them. One day I walked out of my garage and turned the corner, and there, sitting in the middle of my strawberry garden, were these 2 little squirrels, and the one was munching away, and the other one, he looked like a comedy routine. It looked like something that wasn't real. It looked like something out of a movie. His arms were full of strawberries, his cheeks were all packed full of strawberries, and I walked out and looked right at them and said, "Ugh!" And they looked at me and their eyes just got huge and went, "Ugh!" And the one squirrel threw all his strawberries up in the air, like popcorn in a movie theater kind of effect, and ran across the yard and up an old oak tree. Just like in the story, actually. With all of the stories, there is some element of something that happened to me in my life sometime. You can't make this stuff up. And I always tell people, especially when I speak at schools, that pull from your own life, because a lot of times those instances are much more interesting than anything you can make up. So basically, in Miles and the Sneaky Squirrels, and here it is right here, in this story, Miles and his mother it begins with them going into the garden or prepping to go to the garden to harvest all the strawberries. Miles comes around the corner, just like I did, and discovers Chip and Charlotte in the middle of the strawberry garden, and they're eating all the strawberries. And they, of course, throw all the strawberries up in the air and run across the yard and up the old oak tree. So Miles is upset, and the point of this, it's really about peaceful conflict resolution, where he stands there for a moment and thinks about how to handle this. He goes home and he writes them a letter, a handwritten letter asking them to please stop eating the strawberries, why they need the strawberries, and how they're making their jam, and how his mother always says it's not polite or kind to take what's not yours. He finishes off saying, but P.S. I really love your nest. He takes the letter and puts it at the base of the tree for them, and then the next day when his mom and he go out to the garden again, they actually didn't eat any. So they make their strawberry jam, of course, and he, as a thank you, puts 2 jars of jam with 2 little spoons under the tree where their nest is, as a thank you for respecting his wishes and respecting their property. So it's a story of obviously peaceful conflict resolution. It's also about thinking before acting, which I think is also a very important theme to talk about, especially to young children. It's also about generosity, kindness, respecting others, and comfort in home, that quality time spent with your family, like Miles does in all of the books, in the kitchen and in the garden. So there's also an educational aspect to this book, as there is to all the books in the series. There are text-to-text and text-to-self connections, which educators use as comprehension tools. Really, it's about a child connecting to a story with their own personal experiences, or have they ever heard a story before that was like this. And the whole theory behind it is if a child connects with a story in some way, it's much more likely that they'll retain the information that they just read. So they encourage children to practice text connections in the hope that comprehension levels do boost. In this story, Miles actually, and he does in all 4 stories, writes a letter to the readers at the end of the story, asking them, have you ever had this happen to you before? Or have you ever read a book like this? And I always encourage teachers to maybe do an integrated lesson plan where they are practicing letter formatting by writing a letter to Miles. So they're practicing letter formatting, and they're also practicing comprehension tools. So it's kind of a nice way an efficient way to teach a couple different lessons. So there's also that aspect of the artwork in the book. As in all 4 books, I do all the artwork with pencil and watercolor paint. And this is a special book to me because it was the start of it. Miles and the artwork has evolved throughout the series, but there's a very special feel to this book, and it was the very first one. So now we're gonna move into the kitchen, and we're actually gonna make the strawberry jam that Miles and his mother make. And this, of course, this recipe is my own. And I used to make it for friends and family, I used to make hundreds of jars of this jam. And it's really wonderful, and it's a freezer jam. It's not overly processed or cooked, so there's that freshness to it. And I will say, we are, as you can see out my window in Michigan, we are in the dead of January, and it's about as cold as it gets, and it's probably the dreariest month of the year. I usually would make this jam in summertime when the strawberries are just being, freshest. But I thought, what the heck? It is the middle of winter, and we'll kind of bring a burst of summer to kind of a duller moment. Oh, and remember that the jam will only be as good as the berries. I actually found beautiful berries at my local market. I was actually surprised. So let's go bring a little June to January. Come with me. Okay, so we're in the kitchen, and I have a bowl full of these beautiful red berries. I have 4 cups of berries in the bowl. And earlier, what I did is I washed the berries, and how I did that was I put them in a big bowl, I filled the bowl with cold water, and then I took a lemon, and I cut it in half and squeezed the juice into the water with the berries, and then put the cut lemon in with the strawberries. And then kind of used my hand and move them all around together. Then I drained it, filled it up with water again, and then I drained it again. So now what we have to do is we have to hull the berries, or cut the little green tops off, which I'll do right now. So you just cut the little green tops off. Okay, so I hulled all the berries, and I actually cut them up a bit too, because these were like huge berries. So I cut them up a little bit so it's easier to do the next step, which is crushing the berries. And the best tool for this is the handy dandy potato masher. I really love this tool. It's great for a lot of things other than mashing potatoes. I mash bananas with them for banana bread, and right now I'm gonna mash these strawberries with them. So you wanna crush up the strawberries so they release all their juices and they're all kind of nice and smashed. I always love this recipe because it's a freezer jam. So it doesn't have to be hermetically sealed like the traditional canning does. I mean, if you don't, you're gonna give your entire family botulism, right? So we don't have that fear here because you're gonna pop it in the freezer. So I like it that way, and it tastes a lot fresher because it is fresher. It's not cooked as much as it is in the traditional canning. Okay, I think I have sufficiently smashed these, which is basically what we're doing. So next what you do is you add 4 cups of sugar to the berries. So, and this will bring all the juices out of the berries. So we're gonna give this a good stir with a nice sturdy spoon. This is my industrial size spoon. I love it. I'm gonna stir this up. It seems like a lot of sugar, but it's a jam, and it really needs that amount to make it the consistency that it is in the end. And the flavor. Almost there. Okay, we're done. So I'm gonna set this aside and let the sugar and the strawberries do their magic. And next, what we're gonna do is, in this pot, I have heating up 3/4 of a cup water. And what you're gonna do is add to the water 1 packet of powdered pectin. And you can find the pectin in the baking aisle by all the canning stuff. And you just need 1 pack. So what I'm gonna do is whisk it in, and then I'm gonna bring this to a boil. So whisk it in. Woo! Powder. Woo. Wow. Okay, powder's all in. I'm gonna whisk this together, and then I'm gonna take a spatula to it, and I'm gonna bring it to a boil. Once it does come to a boil, stir it constantly and boil it for just 1 minute. Okay, so this has been boiling for 1 minute. It's like, whew, sure is. Look out. And I'm going to add this to the strawberry and sugar mixture. At this point, we stir for a good 3 minutes to really activate that pectin. And with all the sugar and the strawberries. Now, this is actually a great kid-friendly recipe because it's simple, and there's a lot of things like a lot of stirring and smashing and things that kids like to do, especially with berries and fruits and so forth. So, fun idea to maybe do this with your kids. So I'm going to stir And I guess I'll see you in a minute, or 3. You still there? Words of the wise, I probably should have an apron on because I have strawberry all over me. Oh well, it's worth it. Still stirring. I wish I had some kids around here. Okay, so I stirred for 3 minutes. It was a good arm-shoulder workout. And at this point, we are going to fill the pretty jam jars. Now this, I use 8-ounce jam jars, and that fills about 5 or so. I like to use these pretty quilted jam jars. You can use any jar will do really. So you just ladle the mixture into the jars. And it's nice to have some chunks of strawberry. Whoa. Nice job. And leave a 1/4 of an inch headspace, space head. I'll wipe that down later. I got more out of the jar than I got in the jar. And I'll continue filling them until all 5 are filled. Okay, all the jars are filled. I actually got 6 jars out of this. It just depends on how juicy your berries are. But now what I'm doing is I'm just wiping off the tops of the rims with a little wet paper towel just to make sure that it's not all sticky. And now I'm just going to pop the tops on. And at this point, we're done. The beauty of freezer jam right here. No boiling water or boiling the jars, none of that. So I'm just going to put the rest of the tops on, and then I'm going to pop them in the refrigerator for 2 to 24 hours for them to set. And at that point, you can pop the rest of them in the freezer, or you can keep them in the refrigerator for up to a week. But I can guarantee you, I highly doubt that one of these will make it through a week. Not in my house. Okay. Hi everybody, so here it is, the strawberry jam, and it's beautiful. It makes for great gifts, by the way. A pretty little top that you put a little raffia or a ribbon or something like that. People love that, they really do. This jam is versatile. You can put it on PB&J, on top of ice cream, in those little hand pastries, or on top of cookies that require a little bit of jam, or cheesecake. I think I'm gonna have to make one of those. What's great about it too though is you know what's in it. It's simple and it's healthier than a lot of the things you can buy off the shelf in the store that you can't pronounce half of the ingredients. Remember, you can substitute other berries, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries. It's all like, it'd be phenomenal. Okay, so here comes the moment where I have to try it. I'm just gonna spoon it. That's what I often do anyway, to be totally honest with you. Okay, here we go. I'm going in. Oh, yum. Wow. That is amazing. It's a burst of summer in your mouth. Seriously. And I truly need that. Going by what's happening outside my window here, this is phenomenal. I'm so happy I made this. This makes me happy. Remember, the recipe is below. Also remember to please subscribe. I just want you to know also, any of the books I talk about that I've written and illustrated, they're available on JamieRuthenberg.com for purchase if you're interested, along with a plush of the main character Miles as well. So thanks for hanging with me on this dreary January day. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you next time. Stir it constantly so it'll come when it comes. So why is this so hard? So I'm just gonna put. Hi everybody, this is Jamie Ruthenberg. You are watching. Let's take 9. So let's get serious. So thanks for hanging with. I always get so slap happy at this point. So, oh, I can amuse myself all day. Take 14. So thanks for hanging for me? Take 25. Hanging for me. Thanks for hanging for me. That's awesome.